Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. I'm Chris, this is my channel. Absolute pleasure to have you with me here today. And if you didn't know, last weekend was JoeFest over in Augusta, Georgia. And at JoeFest, Fresh Monkey Fiction were there. And on the Saturday, I think it was on the top of my head, they did a panel where they showed off loads of, new up-and-coming stuff that they're planning, working on, coming down the pipelines, gave us some digital renders for us all to get excited about. And for those of us who are, not wadded enough to catch a flight out to Georgia and be there live at the event, they were kind enough to share said digital renders on their social media just yesterday. So I want to take a closer look at this. Fresh Monkey Fiction, I think, are doing exciting stuff right now. I've picked up a few of their bits recently and really enjoyed the figures. And so I'm enthusiastic and encouraged by what I see. So let's do it. Let's take a closer look at the digital renders. Let's give them a quick review and commentate a little bit. I'll invite you to the comments down below to share your thoughts as well. And yeah, that's it. Let's just have a peek at this new stuff, shall we? So we'll get started then, folks. I don't think this is everything that was revealed at the panel. I saw some kind of back of the hall shaky cam footage of some stuff at the panel, but this is certainly everything that they've shared across their social media, at least that I laid my hands on. And to get us started, the first interesting thing they announced was that their Longbox Hero brand, they're now doing a Longbox Heroes Prestige line, which is a 1/12 scale, a 6-inch scale version of these characters. And while I'm not really the biggest kind of Dark Horse Comics reader, but at least I think that's where most of the characters are in this line, I still think there's some stuff in there that's interesting. Certainly, if you're like me and you collect a number of different kind of 6-inch lines, there's definitely characters that could cross-pollinate or be used in different contexts, or that you might just be excited about because you're a fan of that particular item. So while I'm not the biggest fan of these necessarily, I can still recognize them for the quality of figure that I believe they're going to be, based on my experience with Fresh Monkey Fiction 6-inch figures to date. But also, I can see some opportunity for maybe cross-pollinating these into other displays, other dios, other photographs of your other 6-inch figure collections. And the Tick is the first up on the list. Well, Barry Hubris from the Tick, to be more precise. I don't read the Tick. I wasn't a big fan of the cartoon, nor of the Peter Serafinowicz live action version of it, but Barry is a well-known character. The Tick is certainly a popular IP with some, and this looks like a pretty solid kind of superhero character. Really loving the fact, for example, that on these you can see things like the gloves and the boots are sculpted rather than painted on. Looks like there's going to be some nice sculpted details there in the belt as well, with the little Tick sculpted belt details. The face sculpt looks like it's going to be something really quite on brand and on character for Barry there. So while I'm not a big Tick fan necessarily, I think this is definitely a good-looking figure for people who are interested in, their superhero parody stuff from the Tick. So we've got Barry there, but then next up we've got the Rocketeer, which is another, popular kind of pulp brand there. The figure looks, sculpted awesome. Look at this. Look at that. Brilliant sculpting, all those little paint applications on the studs across the front of his uniform, all that kind of textured detail in the jacket and in the trousers, sculpted all the way through as well with the boots. I noticed these trousers get a bit of reuse later on. You can see just a bit of the rocket backpack peeking out the back there, the nice kind of classic 1920s pistol. So again, while I'm not the biggest fan of the Rocketeer necessarily, I can definitely recognize when we've got a good figure, and if you are a Rocketeer fan, then this would most definitely appeal for sure. And it looks like they've got a fair few Rocketeer-related bits coming down the pipeline, because they've also got the Black Phantom here, which is, once again, showing off all that same quality sculpting detail. Look at the helmet and the little cravat scarf in there, the paint application on the front of the uniform and all the studs down the side. Look at the belt buckle on that as well. I think the bottom half of the jacket and the legs are reuse of the Operation Monster Force well, I call them the Red Shadow figures, but they're not the Red Shadow figures. They're whatever the Operation Monster Force version of that is. But really, I can tell you, if it is reuse and they're operating in the same sort of territory as they do with those, then this will be an awesome figure. One thing I did notice was no butterfly joint on the shoulder there, which might be of interest to some. But again, looked great. Looks like a great sculpted piece of work, something that the Rocketeer fans can really sink their teeth into. And we got this guy, Commander Onslaught. And he is an example of one of the kind of guys that I thought could be great sort of cross-pollination across your lines. Maybe you're a Marvel Legends guy and you want some, Axis of Evil, wartime style looking dudes who could flesh out your Hydra roster, for example. I think he would look great in that kind of setup. He's got this like really awesome kind of robotic arm there that you can just sort of see peeking out the side. Got the old school 40s looking submachine gun, the big long leather coat, got his medals and stuff, his little monocle making him look even more evil. This is a great example of what I was talking about before, in the sense of, you might not be a Rocketeer fan. You might not be interested in collecting a Rocketeer line, but you might be interested in grabbing someone like this to pop alongside your Red Skull or pop alongside your Baron Zemo, whatever, to flesh out a bit of a storyline, get your Captain America, giving him a good punch in the face sort of thing. Definitely eye-catching in that respect. And the sculpted detail, I mean, look at the medals on that. Brilliant. And this robotic arm, lots of personality, lots of character in there. So definitely a head turner in that respect. Carrying on with the Rocketeer, got the Onslaught troopers here. Again, same sort of thing. You might not be into the Rocketeer, you might not want to pick these up because you try to collect a Rocketeer selection, but you might want to use them as kind of proxy 30s, 40s, wartime Hydra troopers, or even, Nazis for Captain America to beat up. They could fit in there. You might like the aesthetic. It's got that kind of, there's a lot of anime that kind of uses that sort of aesthetic, and that helmet aesthetic type stuff might appeal to you. Certainly if you like well sculpted action soldiery type figures, you pop those heads off, maybe do a head swap and get them used across something else. So they've got that kind of that possibility to utilize them across your collection in different ways, which I think is really cool. Then we had a render of Betty Paige as the Rocketeer. I'm not sure what's going on with it. Is this anyone who knows, let me know. Is this like a common thing, getting Betty Paige dressed up as popular superhero characters from pulp serials? Looks fine. They definitely looks like they're putting some thought into their female figures. We'll return to that theme in a minute. But yeah, definitely a curious one, that one. And then we have the Sky Captain here, another kind of popular sort of pulp era hero. And once again, while he is a specific character from a specific IP, if you were looking for a World War II pilot kind of guy with a sheepskin leather and a scarf on and stuff, to hop in a Spitfire, and go dogfighting with Messerschmitts or something, then this looks like a very solid fit there. All right, so he's got a little ray gun, but it also looks like he's got a standard issue 6-shooter there in his holster. And I imagine the colour scheme is going to be kind of classic Sky Captain colour scheme with the brown leather coat and stuff. So you might not want a Sky Captain, but you might be interested in what looks like a very kind of classic World War II pilot kind of aesthetic, which I think is really interesting and curious. And I'll definitely be keeping an eye on these as they come out. I suppose it depends on price to think about whether I want to integrate them and use them in other 6-inch lines that I collect. Speaking of, early to mid-century kind of aesthetics and stuff, the next one they showed really caught my eye. The Circuit Syndicate, which I believe is like robot gangsters according to their sort of own internal lore, but they also just look like awesome, Prohibition era gangsters. He's got his pinstripe trousers there and the fedora cap and stuff, the Tommy guns and the bags of swag and the dollars and things, sticks of dynamite for bank robberies, got his revolver, got the revolver there. This guy in the long trench coat, different head swaps with, you got the bowler hat, you got the flat caps in there, so different heads and stuff. Kind of a Dick Tracy kind of vibe again in that sort of pulp era, newspaper comic strip sort of space. But if you do want to get them and cram them into something a little bit more modern, a little bit more science fiction, then you've got the lore around. Look at the robot heads. I mean, they look awesome. That one looks like it's got a nice sort of dry brush thing planned on it there to really bring it to life. And this one with the Cyclops eye on it. So yeah, really, I'm really into that one. Really into that one. Again, I could just see it being a cool, awesome kind of way to broadly enhance your 6-inch figure collection. If the head swap's solid, this guy here in particular, well, both of them to be fair, while there is a certain sort of 20s aesthetic to them, this dude here in particular with the pinstripe trousers, quick cheeky head swap, and that could be anybody, couldn't it? Could be anybody. So really into these, really like the look of these. And of course, things like the bags of swag and the little money bundles and the tray of cash from the bank teller's drawer and the dynamite sticks and stuff, all very kind of generically useful across the bits box as well, that you could make use of across your various collections too. So really interesting. It's obviously a very popular kind of space, the that kind of prohibition gangster stuff too. So yeah, into that, definitely. And this guy looks mean. Look at him. I definitely got a bit of a flat top, Dick Tracy flat top vibe about him, hasn't he? You know what I mean? But yeah, really good. And if the Circuit Syndicate, like, Operation Monster Force, like the Order of the Crimson Moon, if it becomes a kind of sort of sub-theme within their Longbox Heroes prestige collections, maybe we'll see more stuff coming out with that sort of Prohibition era vibe. I'm thinking, you could do some, make a custom headman for your G.I. Joe in there or something, you know what I mean? Really good, really interesting. I just like what they're doing. It's just like really tapping into all that nostalgic imagination stuff, which is probably why I'm noticing the Fresh Monkey Fiction stuff as much as I am. Okay, so there was the Longbox Heroes Prestige line, but the line of theirs that I'm particularly engaged with and was looking out for information on was the Operation Monster Force stuff, which they did have some Operation Monster Force stuff to turn our heads. And I have to confess, while I started out with Operation Monster Force as a kind of line to complement my G.I. Joe and my Valaverse Action Force and stuff, it's, catching my eye increasingly as just a line to collect in its own right. And the old wallet might have a few things to say about that, but have a look at some of this stuff. Really, really cool. And let's start with Chatsworth. Look at this. Bigfoot with like a massive Arnie minigun, a load of head swaps, including what looks like this most awesome sort of cheeky one there. Look at the cheeky one there. Loving that. Looks like it's got great sculpted detail in the fur. I mean, if you saw their werewolf, then you'll know that they have a good pedigree for this sort of big, large creature type stuff in their Operation Monster Force line. Got his Rambo, sweatband and the big old bullet belt and his tactical belt across the middle there with his grenades and his water canister and all that. Looking really, really awesome, really cool. Probably a bit bigger and a bit more than I would want to commit to in terms of growing my collection, but still really eye-catching, really interesting figure, and definitely one that I could see people like really just, again, you could just use it. All right, in the context of Monster Force, it is legitimately an active Bigfoot. It's a supernatural character in their internal lore. Or you could pop the gear off and pop the cheeky head on or the angry head on and just have a Bigfoot, Oh, and the donuts. I forgot to mention the donuts. Talking about accessories that are just generically useful for your collection. Get a couple of them in your Dreadnoks hands with some grape sodas. You know what I mean? So yeah, really eye-catching stuff, this. Then look at this. This is an artistic concept, work in progress, but the Order of St. Joan of Arc, just kind of growing the You know, these different factions that exist within the Operation Monster Force world. I had said actually a while ago that they didn't seem to have much in the way of female characters, so it's nice to see them kind of expanding out into this space. But like a combat nun with a tactical vest and bits of armor on and stuff, just wow, you know, awesome. It gives me kind of 40k. What's the they've got like a nun, like battle nun faction, haven't they? In 40k, the name escapes me now. I'm not a big 40k guy, but yeah, kind of give me these vibes. This is obviously you know, just drawn artwork, shaded artwork here that they've shared, but be very interested to see how this female book, you know, pans out, because it shows an awful lot of promise. I mean, again, look at the sculpted detail, like with the sort of clasps, the clip clasps there. And looks like we've got face plates to swap around in amongst the habit, the nun's habit there. So yeah, really, really interesting. Oh, sorry, folks, zooming in on the wrong bit. Really interesting, just really, really fascinating looking figure. Very excited to see not only female characters entering the line, but also kind of these new factions that are bringing new aesthetics, new ideas into the mix there. And while we're on the subject of female characters, here we go, Red Riding Hood. I think we saw an artist sketch of this a little while ago. I don't know if this is a little bit more detailed than the previous iteration of what we saw. But again, what a great concept, what a great idea. Just like really tying into this fairy tale, supernatural character thing that they've got. She's got a wide selection of really cool accessories there, like this hand-mounted crossbow thing with the wolf design on it there. You know, really, really, really cool. Actually, you can see it a bit better on this side, which I think is really fun. Really, again, just like exploring the imagination of this space, along with things like, I mean, what's that thing? Like this battle star blade thing that can clearly do some serious damage. It's got these massive kind of cannons, these revolver cannons here, some hand-to-hand weaponry. I mean, look at that battle axe. That's sweet as. If that comes out in 6-inch plastic form like that, I'll be really impressed. But all of that kind of wolf motify stuff tied into the character, along with a hood, which I don't. Does anyone know? Was anyone there? Could they tell me if this is intended to be soft goods? It seems to imply the way it's sort of draped differently on the two images there that it is. But nonetheless, without the soft goods on, look again, got that kind of wolf motif on the pauldron on a shoulder there. Just really cool looking face sculpt, all this sculpted detail and paint applications in and around the belts and the buckles and things. Big old pair of practical boots. Yeah, real eye catcher this, real eye catcher. Again, I'm not sure I can necessarily fully see a space where that would integrate in amongst my G.I. Joe collection, but increasingly this line just looks like fucking awesome. And I'd be interested in picking up this character just for a great female character to break up some of the sausage fest that my display shelves sometimes seem like. But that's not it. We got more female characters. Here's Agent Harker. I suppose a little bit more of a kind of traditional monster hunter type, without a sort of a supernatural kind of element attached. She's just good old fashioned. I get a vampire hunter vibe here with the stakes strapped in on the legs. A bit of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer type of character, if you will. And certainly she's got a little bit of a kind of SoCal fashion vibe there with the crop top, but a leather jacket over the top and studded belt and stuff. So I'll be interested to see how this one comes together with colour on it, but certainly looks again like another great figure, well sculpted, loads of fabric texture details in there. They've definitely proven themselves in terms of the way that they apply paint applications and sculpt the detail in and dry brush and wash the figures to give them texture and depth. So again, very excited. I love the little kind of revolver holster on the back here. Look at that. It looks really cool, and like little grenades, or maybe those are like holy water jars, I don't know. But yeah, just a really great kind of figure. And she's got, again, a good military vibe. She could integrate well with your G.I. Joe, with your Valaverse, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, watch this space to see how that one pans out. And then we have Miranda Seek here, another female character. They're not ones for doing things by halves at Fresh Monkey Fiction, are they? It's like, we want more female characters. They're like, you want more female characters? There you go. It's basically a whole wave's worth of them. She's definitely got that kind of punky, bit of a Zorana vibe there with the hairstyle and the sort of the leather zip up top, flashing a bit of breast. I'd be interested to see the colour scheme on this one, whether this could serve as a good kind of. There might be some opportunity for some customization here, like baronesses and stuff, or dreadnocky type of things. Got a heeled boots. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, this is obviously a work in progress, very early kind of design, 3D design model, but just looks really good. And I didn't mention before, but all their female characters appear to have butterfly joints, barbell joints. Looks like there might be a ball joint in the waist there. Got the thigh. Looks like there might be a thigh cut, boot cut. You know, they're fully articulated up to the standard of the male characters as well, which I think is very, very encouraging. I think somebody mentioned to me, one of my Joe Bros, I think, mentioned that this character, Miranda Seek, was described as a collector of things that don't belong to her. So she's not necessarily a villain, but like maybe a Tomb Raider-y type, you know, like a Dr. Aphra, Tomb Raider, Lara Crofty type character. But again, you know, the lore around this stuff, that's entirely up to you how much you lean in or lean out of that. I don't necessarily engage with the Operation Monster Force lore so much. I just find them to be very imaginative, interesting characters that work in the broader scope of what I buy in the 6-inch scale, you know. But Operation Monster Force, just everything I see is impressing me further and further and further. I just need some stuff to start shipping more frequently. I know they've got their challenges, and I know it's a long lead in time on this stuff. I get it. They're small, they're independent. I understand, but you know, we were supposed to get some stuff by now, I think, on Wave 2. I haven't had my General, not seen any of the Crimson Moon stuff yet, so I'd like to see some more stuff shipping a little, with a better, what do they say in G.I. Joe, a better cadence to it, you know? But that said, looking good, guys. Looking good. And then finally, talking of 1/18 scale lines that they do, or doing a version in the 1/12 scale, they mentioned Eagle Force Returns. Now, the Eagle Force line, I like the Eagle Force 1/18 line. I have a small selection of stuff that I bought that's very strongly inspired by the classic Action Forcey stuff from here in the UK. But the Eagle Force has loads of great, really interesting characters, really imaginative, clearly drawing strong inspiration. Again, as I said before, tapping into these kind of nostalgic inspiration points that we can get excited about. And while this is just a small selection, a little taster of some of the Eagle Force characters that they're going to do a 6-inch version of, if it goes well, I'm encouraged by it, because if it goes well, there's definitely some stuff they've done that I'd really love to see. So first up is Eagle Force. Here's Captain Eagle. Again, you may or may not care about the Eagle Force lore, you know, that's attached to this. They do have a whole wiki page and comic books and all sorts of stuff. But I'm sure you can appreciate, as I do, how this, again, could be just a character that can just integrate well into your other kind of military-based lines for sure. Of course, he's got his eagle mounted on his arm there. And it will be a well-sculpted, well-painted one, at least based on my experience of what I've picked up from Fresh Monkey Fiction, you know, the Big Bad Workshop, up till now. So yeah, looking good. Got the beret, got the eye patch, tactical vest on there. Looks like he's going to have a weapon selection. He's going to have a little creature companion. Looking really, really cool. Then General Mamba here, who I suspect is probably, largely reuse from the General character whose proper name escapes me now, but the General character who's got the Joe Colton head in Operation Monster Force. But still, you know, just those kind of core military-style characters. If you're a bit of a customizer, then maybe you can do a little fiddling around and do something with that riot badge on the front of his hat there. But again, sculpted details, medals, you know, sculpted boots rather than painted on boots and stuff. The necktie with the collar, just really great stuff that looks like, you know, if it's up to the standard of what I've experienced with the Operation Monster Force characters I've picked up already, then will be a good fig. Eagle Force Troopers here. I suppose it'll depend on the colour scheme, but just looks like a good, solid kind of, comic booky type of generic trooper dude with a little, you know, bit of a science fiction-y twist there with the way the helmet is and stuff, but looking really, really interesting. Really, really interesting. And then these Mamba men, like just freaky alien dudes with submachine guns. I mean, again, you can, you know, the possibilities are endless. And knowing the way that Fresh Monkey Fiction operates, while this is obviously a very specific character from the Eagle Force narrative, there'll be a head swap and a hand swap. You'll get a head swap and a hand swap with this to make it a more kind of generic trooper kind of guy, you know. I think I saw they had a kind of combat trooper in the Soldier of Fortune stuff that had a very strong G.I. Joe green shirt vibe about it, you know. So yeah, the Eagle Force stuff, like really, really interesting, really, really exciting. I'd love to see what they called, the Heroes of the Impossible, is it called? Hang on, I can't remember the exact name. I'm just going to get my Google on. It's the Agents of the Impossible. I knew I slightly misremembered the name, but I'd seen the figures. You know, and there's another one as well. So there's like a $6 million man. There's like a Richard Roundtree style sort of blaxploitation kung fu character. They've done like an Escape from New York. No, not Escape from New York. A Big Trouble in Little China style Kurt Russell character. You know, there's all sorts of weird and wonderful, wacky stuff. Dudes in spacesuits and stuff. So really encouraged to see this. I hope that this initial salvo of Eagle Force stuff in the 1/12 scale does well, because I'd love to see more of that kind of Eagle Force, World of Eagle Force stuff come down the pipeline, because I can see a place for those types of characters, again, just broadly as a 6-inch collector, you know? So there we are, ladies and gents, boys and girls. Just a very quick rundown of the Big Bad Workshop stroke Fresh Monkey Fiction JoeFest reveals that they showed at this weekend just gone. I'm really excited and encouraged by this stuff. I like what Fresh Monkey Fiction are doing. I think we need more eyeballs on what they're doing. They need to sell more figures so that they can produce more figures and produce more figures faster. You know, so I'm out there kind of advocating for the cause. Again, my excitement is based on, you know, hands-on experience with Operation Monster Force. In fact, I've got a couple of them. They're permanently residing, guarding the Beatles at the top there. Since they arrived, they've been regular figures out on the display. They've not gone in the storage boxes at all. I've been playing with them regularly, frequently, really enjoy them. And in fact, over on this side, some of my 1/18th Eagle Force stuff's hanging out over there as well. So really encouraged by what they're doing, and my excitement is based on my hands-on experience, like the naughty or nice Christmas stuff. I love my Santa Clauses, you know, my Father Christmases. Get them out in December, make little displays with them. They're fun, they're imaginative, they're interesting, and I love how they kind of take these nostalgic tropes. Well, not always nostalgic tropes. Some of them are just straight up intellectual properties. But broadly speaking, like with the Circuit Syndicate, you know, that kind of 20s prohibition gangster nostalgic trope, and just kind of taking it and bringing it into the world of 6-inch action figure collecting. You know, we might not be enough interest for a full, you know, prohibition gangster style line, but there might be interest in a kind of subsection, you know, and the Operation Monster Force stuff just blows my mind. I love the imagination that's going into that. So there you go. But of course, I invite you to head to the comments down below, share your thoughts. Is this something that's catching your eye? Do you think you might go in on some Operation Monster Force? How's your experience been with the Fresh Monkey Fiction product up until now? Have you been as excited and encouraged by it as I have? All that good stuff. Let me know. I love chatting to you guys in the comments section. But for now, thanks for coming and taking a look at this rundown. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'd love to see you around these parts again for another video sometime soon. So see you later, folks.